Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be learning about the mandibular first premolar. So the mandibular first premolar in the universal tooth numbering system can be numbered as 21 and 28. If you don't know how to number uh, the teeth in the universal numbering system, I do recommend you to check out my video on the introduction to dental anat, where I've taught all the three types of the numbering system. Okay, moving on. What are the functions, generally the functions of the premolar? So the function of the any first, whether it's maxillary or mandible. So basically the functions of the first premolars are, first, since they are they're having sharp cusps. Okay, they have sharp cusp. They assist canines in their function, that is in tearing of food. Okay, another function for the maxillary and the mandibular first premolar is that they reinforce the aesthetics in smile. Okay. And one last function is that they provide support to the cheeks. Okay, now these were some functions. Why did I say first? Because the first premolars have sharp cusps, while the second premolars, whether it's maxilla or mandible, second premolar, they have not that sharp cusps. They are more similar to the molars, and that's why they assist the molars in their functions, that's grinding and etc. I will tell you that in the next videos, upcoming videos. Moving on, let's study about the aspects, the features of the mandibular first premolar. I've just drawn this buccal aspect of the mandibular first premolar. So let's discuss the buccal aspect. So here, seeing the crown outline, what can we see? So if this is my mesial and this is my distal, how can you say how is the mesial outline? The mesial outline is convex. Okay, it's convex except in the cervical, where it is concave. Here this is convex, but near the cervical, this is cervical end, it is concave. So this was the mesial outline in the buccal aspect. Moving on to the distal outline. How can you see the distal outline? So it is also convex as it joins the occlusal outline, but here it is concave, so near the cervix. So it's basically similar, mostly it is concave, and as it joins this occlusal, it becomes convex. Okay, now seeing the height of contour, that is the mesial contact area, it is just occlusal to the center of the crown. So the mesial contact area is just above that is occlusal means above this is the center of the crown, so it will be somewhere over here. That is height of contour of the mesial aspect. The mesial outline, that was the height of contour or the mesial contact area, and the distal contact area is also at the same level, but it is it is a bit broader, you can say. So both of them are at the same level, the distal contact area and the mesial contact area. Moving on to the occlusal outline. The buccal cusp tip is sharp, and the mesobuccal and the distobuccal cusp ridge are slightly concave. Okay, if the premolar is unworn, the buccal cusp tip is sharp. You can see it's very sharp, and the mesobuccal cusp and the distobuccal cusp ridges are slightly concave. Slightly, not that much. Slightly concave. If the premolar is unworn, that is not, if it's a newly erupted premolar. Okay. Now, distal cusp ridge is longer than the mesial cusp ridge. You can see this is a bit longer. So the distal cusp ridge is longer than the mesial cusp ridge. And the cervical line on the buccal surface is curved apically. This is the apex, root apex, so it is curved apically, directed that way. Moving on, we will see the buccal surface. How is the buccal surface as such? So the crown appears broad, okay, over here, and then it narrows in the cervix. The middle and the buccal lobe is well developed. Okay, this middle buccal lobe, it is well developed, and the buccal ridge is prominent. There is a buccal ridge like this, and it is prominent over here. The buccal cusp tip is joint and is placed slightly mesial to the center of the crown. The buccal cusp tip is pointed over here, and it is placed slightly mesial to the center of the crown. So if this is the center of the crown, then it is slightly mesial, that is this side, the tip. Okay, and the buccal surface is convex, that is, it is a bit like this, convex. If you have to imagine it in 3D, it is convex. Okay, now we will study about the lingual aspect. Okay, so moving on to the lingual aspect, let's see all the features in this one. So the lingual aspects, crown outline, and before that, let me just tell you that even in the buccal aspect, the shape of the crown is trapezoidal. Okay, if you can see like this, it's a trapezoid. In the lingual as well as in the buccal, they are trapezoidal. In the mesial and the distal, they are rhomboidal. You know the rhombus, right? Like that. So moving on to the lingual aspect, the crown outlines are same as in the buccal aspect for the mesial, distal and the cervical. They all are similar to the buccal aspect as we had discussed. Okay, they were concave here near the cervix and convex as we come near the occlusal outline, and the cervical line pointing to the apex. Moving on to the occlusal outline. Okay, so the occlusal boundary or the limit of the lingual surface is formed by the cusp tip and the cusp ridges of the lingual cusp. So this is a short, you have to imagine this is the cusp of this is the lingual cusp. Okay, and this, which you can see, it's behind, and this is the buccal cusp. The lingual cusp is very short. okay, due to which you can see the buccal cusp and the cusp ridges. Okay, that is why and the tip is also very sharp over here. That's why they assist the canines in tearing the food. The lingual cusp tip over here, it forms the outline, the occlusal. This is the occlusal plane if you have to see in 3D. So this also forms the boundary, the cusp ridges. Okay, mesial and distal cusp ridges. Why is this distal? Why is this mesial? Because now we are seeing a lingual aspect of the mandibular premolar. So you just flipped the tooth. That's why this became mesial and this became distal. Okay, so this is the mesial cusp ridge and this is the distal cusp ridge over here. Now, if you see the occlusal outline, it is notched by a groove. This groove. Okay, this is a very important characteristic feature of this mandibular first premolar, this groove, and this is called the mesolingual developmental groove. I will tell you when we see the lingual surface. Okay, so when we see the lingual surface, there is a marked convergence of the crown. Okay, it results in a much narrow lingual surface. So the buccal surface, it was very broad and convex, but this one, it narrows and converges, forming a narrow lingual surface, and the occlusal surface slopes lingually because of the shorter lingual cusp. Thus most of the occlusal surface is seen, okay, and including the buccal triangular ridge, marginal ridges, inclined plane of the buccal cusp, mesial and distal fossa is visible. So when you see from this aspect, the occlusal plane is seen and the buccal cusp ridges, buccal tip and triangular ridge over here, everything is visible because of this lingual cusp, which is small, I told you before. Okay, and the mesial and distal fossa, there are fossas over here, they are also seen. The lingual cusp tip is pointed, even this is pointed. Okay, you can see, with buccal triangular ridge, which is clearly seen from this aspect. The buccal triangular ridge, it joins, okay, transverse ridge helps to join with the lingual cusp tip, and due to which everything is seen because of this lingual cusp, which is short. So coming on to the characteristic feature which I told you, this one, okay, the characteristic feature of the mandibular first premolar is the mesolingual developmental groove. Mesolingual developmental groove, okay, of the occlusal. So basically how is it formed? This groove, okay, it extends in the occlusal surface and from the mesial development groove of the occlusal surface onto the lingual surface mesially. So there was this groove of fossa in the occlusal surface which extended from the occlusal surface to the lingual surface, and it is directed mesially. That is why it is called mesolingual. Okay, basically if this is distal, then it should be over here. I made a mistake, so it will be like this. Okay, so this will be the mesolingual developmental groove. Okay, coming on to the mesial aspect. Okay, so I just want to clear a point that here the mesial aspect is over here and distal aspect is here, and this is the lingual surface. So this has to be a tooth of a left side mandibular first premolar. That is the number 28. Okay, the number 28 for buccal and lingual aspect which I had shown. But now this is the mesial aspect. Okay, if this is the mesial aspect, then this has to be of a right mandibular first premolar. Why? Because when you flip it like this, then mesial side comes here and distal side comes here for the buccal surface, if you see. So that will be for a right mandibular first premolar, which is the number 21. So we will discuss the mesial and distal aspect of the 221, that is the right mandibular first premolar, and the buccal and lingual we have discussed for the left. Okay, it doesn't matter. We can also do the same mesial one for the left also, but only so that I can just make your concepts clear, I have discussed in both sides, so that in the exam you don't get confused that why this here the lingual, for lingual this is distal and this is mesial, this should be mesial and this should be distal. Doesn't matter. That means it's of a left mandibular first premolar. Distal is here, mesial is over here. With that point I just wanted you to be clear with. Moving on to the mesial aspect, seeing the crown outline, what can you see? The buccal outline. Okay, so the buccal outline is marked by a convex forming this one. Okay, it is convex, the buccal outline. This is buccal and this is lingual. Okay, we are discussing the right mandibular first premolar. So, and the height of contour for the buccal one, it is at the cervical third. It is highest over here, the height of contour for the buccal aspect, for the buccal outline. And for the lingual outline, it is convex, stretching out. It's stretching out like this, and it is moving out of the confines of the root, thus creating an overhang above the root trunk lingually. Basically, this is my root and it is crossing the root. Okay, this thing, this extra projection out, or it's called the overhang. Okay, because it's crossing the boundaries of this root outline. Okay, so that is why it is called the overhang, which is formed above the root trunk lingually. This is the lingual aspect. And so the height of contour, it is in the middle third, because this middle third is the height of contour. Moving on, let's see the occlusal outline. It is concave and are sloping lingually. You can see it's concave, right? This occlusal, they're concave and they're sloping lingually. There's a lingual inclination. Okay, this is called a lingual inclination. We'll discuss that this whole tooth is lingually inclined. The mandibular, the mandibular premolar, it's lingually inclined like this, so that it can fit with the maxillary premolar. Okay, so the mesial marginal ridge slopes predominantly are in the lingual direction, like this, in the lingual direction. Moving on to the cervical outline, so it is slightly occlusally directed. Okay, slightly, it's like this, slightly occlusally directed. And the mesial surface, it is smooth, convex, except for the mesolingual developmental groove and a concavity just above the cervical line. So as we had discussed, there was this mesolingual developmental groove over here, so it can be seen in the lingual side as well as in the mesial side. Okay, so it is seen over here somewhere, which is like the whole surface smooth except over there, because there's a groove over there, the mesolingual developmental groove, and there is small convexity over here near the cervix. above the cusp tip. The buccal cusp tip is centered over the root base. That is, so the buccal cusp tip is centered over the root base. If you see, you can say the buccal cusp tip is vertical to the root axis. This is the root axis, so it is vertical. Okay, they're in this one line. And the mesial marginal ridge slopes predominantly in the lingual direction. We have already seen this point. And some part of the occlusal surface with buccal and lingual triangular ridge can be seen from the mesial aspect also. Lingual aspect, everything was seen, occlusal, buccal surface, everything. From the mesial also you can see some part of the this buccal and lingual triangular ridge. Okay, from the mesial aspect you can see bit. And the mesial contact area, it is occlusal to the center of the crown and it is in line with the buccal cusp tip. We saw, and so this, if this is the contact area of the mesial aspect, it is in line with the buccal cusp tip and it is centered. Okay, it is in the center of the crown. Moving on, we will see about the distal aspect and the occlusal aspect. Yes, so let's talk about the distal and the occlusal aspect of the mandibular first premolar. So the distal aspect, as I said, the mesial one also, this is also rhomboidal in shape, that is rhombus. Okay, and the buccal and the lingual outline are similar to that of the mesial aspect. As we had seen in the mesial aspect, same outlines are there for the the distal aspect also. What did we see in the mesial? Let's just discuss it again. The buccal outline is marked by the convex from the cervix to the buccal tip. So it is over here. If this is taking your buccal and lingual, this is buccal and this is lingual. Okay, I think I should make this shorter. Yes. So the buccal outline, it is convex, and the lingual outline, it is stretching out of the confines of the root. If you take, this is the line, then it is stretching out of the confine. Okay, so let's see the other features that we see in this aspect, the distal aspect. Okay, that is not similar to the mesial aspect. So here we can see the distal marginal ridge is perpendicular to the long axis of the tooth. There it was sloping, it was not perpendicular. Here it is perpendicular, okay, to the root axis. This is the root axis, it's perpendicular over here. There it was sloping in the mesial aspect, and it is placed at a higher level than the mesial marginal ridge from the cervix. So the distal marginal ridge, okay, if this is the distal marginal ridge, then it is placed at a higher level. If we can only see this from the buccal aspect. Okay, so let's just see the buccal aspect. So if this is my mesial, this is my distal, then if this is the cervical line, then the mesial, okay, it is lower and the distal is higher. The mesial marginal ridge is placed higher than the distal, and the distal marginal ridge is placed higher than the mesial marginal ridge. Okay, you can see the difference. And the cervical outline, it is nearly straight. Okay, not much straight. and the distal surface, we'll see it is smooth except for the small linear concavities in the cervical line, the small lingual concavities over here in the cervical line, or else it is smooth, the whole surface. In the mesial surface, we found it was having the mesolingual developmental groove and small concavities in the cervical line, and the distal contact area is at the same level but it is broader. It is also centrally placed, okay, but it is much broader than the mesial surface. Let's go on to the occlusal surface and then we are done. So the occlusal surface is diamond shaped. Okay, you can clearly see it's a diamond shaped, okay, roughly diamond, and the middle buccal lobe forms the major bulk of the crown, okay, the middle buccal lobe over here, and the buccal ridge is it's prominent. This buccal ridge, it's prominent, okay, you can't see from the occlusal surface, but yes, it's prominent. I mean, you can see a bit over here. Then going on, the mesial buccal and the distobuccal line angles are prominent, although rounded, okay, the mesobuccal and the distobuccal oh, okay, so the mesobuccal and distobuccal line angles are prominent, although they are rounded, and the curvature representing the contact areas immediately lingual to buccal line angles are relatively broad, okay, and the mesial ridges are well developed. Mesial ridges well developed, and the marginal ridges, that is the marginal ridges, you cannot, I mean, these are the cusp ridge, but yes, this marginal ridge, they are well developed, mesial marginal and the distal marginal. The lingual cusp is small, as we had seen in those aspects. Lingual cusp is smaller than the buccal cusp, so over here also the lingual cusp is smaller and it converges sharply to the center of the lingual surface, converges, okay. The occlusal surface has two depressions, distal and mesial fossa, irregular in form, okay. Over here there are depressions which are the mesial and the distal fossas. The mesial fossa is more linear in form and it forms the mesial developmental groove. The distal fossa is more circular and contains the distal developmental groove, that is crescent shaped. This one, it is crescent shaped like a moon. The mesial developmental groove, it is more linear, not that crescent shaped, it's like a line over here. And as we know, the mesial fossa, it extends downwards and forms what? The mesolingual developmental groove. So that was that characteristic feature that we should remember in this tooth. I hope the mandibular first premolar is clear. If you have any doubts, okay, comment below. Do like, share and subscribe to my channel, guys. Thank you.